It's monk time. It's monk time. Hey there, Nick. You're a monk. I'm a monk. We're all monks. Hey, it's monk time. Monk time. Monk time. What's that you're doing? Oh, yes,
I
yes,
hate you.
yes.
Okay. I was listening to the monks.
We should say, just in case no one knows what the hell we're talking about, just because it's worth flagging up. If you've
absolutely
never heard the Monks' eponymous debut album,
Black Monk Time,
or aka Black Monk Time, what are you waiting for? It's one of the finest slices of vinyl ever created.
It's fantastic. I only heard it because of you, Clive. I think you were playing it in the car once when we were driving around Tokyo, and I was like, "What is this?
Okay.
Why have I not heard this before?"
There's also, in case you did, because I don't know if you've actually seen this, and our viewers who might be interested, there's actually a really good documentary about the Monks.
Okay.
Called Monks: The Transatlantic Feedback. And
okay.
Loads of footage from them, like on German television and stuff. And they were clearly just the fucking coolest people in the world, right? Because you have all this, you have this studio full of like, spotty German kids waiting for the latest kind of, Beatles copy or whatever. And who are these guys like dressed as fucking monks playing this weird kind of
terrifying garage
awesome
rock?
Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, if you like the Stooges, if you like the Sonics, if you like any of that kind of stuff, they're absolutely
but they're not monkish enough for you.
No. Yeah. If you want somebody proper shaved tonsures, right. You need to get into the monks. So yes, it is monk time here.
Yes, it is
at Ffilm Craic. We are dealing with not one, not two, but three film adaptations of what's his name? Matthew Lewis? Is that his name?
Yes,
the guy who wrote the
Matthew
thing?
Lewis. Yeah. So many. Recently on we were talking Betraven, which is a fandom. Again, you were mentioning thanks to me, you are a Monks fan, and thanks to you, I am a fan of The Monk.
Right.
You lent me Matthew Lewis's The Monk, which is a book from like 1796 or late 18th century.
Yes, it's definitely it's considered to be like the quintessential Gothic novel, I think. Yeah. And actually, Jen, my wife, is probably the person who introduced it to me because she took a course in Gothic literature at university yonks ago, and so yeah. And it is. I bought it based on her recommendation, and it's been a very long time since I read it, but I thoroughly. I can't say that. I really enjoyed it quite a bit. Yeah. And it's and what I liked about it, totally, dude. The thing that I like about
how to make your podcasting YouTube partner self-conscious 101.
Yes. So. The thing that I liked about the book, which is a bit lost for me in the movies, and I mean maybe you'll disagree with me, is I felt like there was a process, and this could also be just misremembering. Maybe this is not in the book, but I thought that Father Ambrosio, who is our the titular monk, he does a lot of he starts out as apparently a very strict and upstanding monk who's totally chaste and so on. But goes through this series of compromises, but he always justifies each one right to the point where he's murdering people, and he's still in the process of there was extenuating circumstances, and I found that really fascinating. I kind of feel like in the movie, because it's more focused on the action and less on his internal thought, that was lost. But that somebody who's read the book more recently could be like, no, Nick, you've entirely invented that. That's
no, I feel as if that might be part of it, because this is also around the same time as we were hanging out. So you were probably making some interesting connections.
I might have been, yes.
Yeah, I seem to remember that being part of our discussion around the book a little bit. We were discussing reality mirroring fiction and all that. But also, I think what's kind of the thing that always struck me about the book is not only is it again, without having read everything, but I've read like Castle of Chateau and stuff like that, is not only is it peak Gothic, it's almost jumping the shark self-parody Gothic, isn't it? There's a feeling that Matthew Lewis is really going for it, and especially when
Yes.
you get to the ending, it's
Oh yes.
there's something kind of meta about it to a
Mhm.
certain extent. Like,
He was also 20 years old when he wrote the thing.
wow.
And apparently it wrecked the rest of his literary career because it was one of those books that was like an absolute cause celeb and also hated as well.
I can
And
imagine,
so,
yeah. I mean, I mean, this would still, I would imagine, if you handed this book to the wrong person, I mean, it's still relatively scandalous, right? If
yeah.
you're ready for it.
And apparently it was popular with young people at the time. And it was like, yeah, there was major concerns about whether he was leading people down the merry path to hell.
Yeah. So I suppose we should just, I mean, yeah, each of these film adaptations, and again, we both haven't read the book for a while, but I was kind of had a little look at the kind of, the wiki kind of entry on it, just and each film does seem to have both pros and cons in terms of
Yes.
what they included and what they left out.
Mhm.
And for I mean, we'll get to this in more detail, but for my money, actually, the film I like the most is almost the one that digresses the most from the book, is not as slavish.
Okay.
But they all have different strengths. And it'd be interesting to see which one you prefer. So basically, just to get it out of the way, yeah, the book is about an incredibly pious monk who basically slowly gets corrupted.
Oh yeah.
And
he's
other
on the highway to hell.
Yeah, other major characters include basically another brother. A fraternal brother turns out to be a woman. I can't remember. When I watched the final of these versions, the 2011 one, it was when it struck me. Oh yeah, the wooden mask thing, that's in the book, right?
I don't know. I don't know if it actually is, but it's a brilliant choice.
Well, yeah, it is, because it makes more sense. Because in the version, like, nah,
I know. Nope.
That's a hot woman. That's clearly not a monk.
Yep.
What's wrong with you? It's like when you watch, again, it's a trope, so you go with it. But when you watch kung fu films where there's like some really good-looking woman, but she has short hair, so everyone assumes she's a boy, right? And you're like, no, look at the front. Look at these. Boys don't have them in general.
Although one of the film versions, it might actually be is it the one with Franco Nero, the earliest one, where somebody mentions, oh, he's so pious, they say he doesn't actually recognize the difference between men and women. Like, they give themselves that out.
That would fucking make sense if you're not noticing Natalie Delon, not just Natalie Delon with like really long flowing hair.
Yes, she hasn't even chopped off.
Yeah, it's got to be peeping out from under that hood, right? In fact, I can see it's peeping out from under that hood.
Yeah. So yeah, basically.
Yeah, and there's a whole thing about so that and I mean,
there's various subplots.
Yeah, there
different films touch on.
But he's a very bad monk. A very bad monk.
Yes, he is a
naughty monk. Naughty monk. And also, the one thing that I think was left out of all the film adaptations, and again, this was just by reading back, and I'd kind of forgotten, it did ring a bell. Isn't there some connection? Don't they bring in the old Wandering Jew, Molma, the Wanderer?
Yes.
That's in there as well, isn't it?
Yes.
Which is actually, after all these years, probably something we want to do on here, because we both haven't read that stuff, right?
No.
So we probably want to be doing Melmoth at some point. Sorry,
yes.
On the other show that those dicks we don't like do.
Yeah. Book.
Book one.
But
book twats.
Yeah, they just celebrated some kind of
they're like
smelling their own farts for like probably an hour and a half.
I hate those guys. Anyway, yes,
the monk.
I'll read the book, because the book is great, I would say.
Yes,
it's definitely worth a read. Yes, and so we've got 3 film versions.
So how are we going to do this? We're going to do it chronologically?
I think so. Unless you have a bit ready.
I actually watched them completely in like
interesting
sideways order for whatever reason. Partly because
that makes a difference to the way you've.
I wonder if it will actually.
Okay, so 72, 90, and 2011. So if we follow that trend, we probably.
I watched 72 last.
Okay, we'll probably do another one in another
20 years.
10 years.
Yeah, It's
Yeah,
like they're on a 20-year cycle. Yeah, I was thinking
yeah.
about that as well. So
I
the
tell you who
first,
would be quite a good monk, actually, if we're
Mhm,
just talking famous, like if you wanted to get the budget
mhm,
to do, like a really good all-time version,
mhm.
Benedict Cumberbatch would be a pretty good monk.
Yes, agreed, agreed.
Because he looks alternately pious and sketchy as fuck, right?
Yes, yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, yeah, no, he would be good.
Stop it.
Um,
What's wrong with you? You did it
what?
again, Valley Girl, Nick.
Totally, totally.
You've never did this before. This is a new thing.
Yeah, yeah. Who knows? It's like a Tourette's syndrome. Totally, totally Tourette's. Um, so so yeah, so this is the one that was written and apparently originally intended for like Buñuel, right? Buñuel wanted
Yes,
to make
yes.
a version of this, and so he wrote a script, and then never got around to it, and then it ended up falling to, how do you say his name?
Adokiru.
Okay,
I don't
Greek.
know. That's just how it's written. Or
Yeah.
Adonis Kiru, right?
Okay, and
I
he's
don't know.
Greek filmmaker, right?
Yes, yes. Who seems to have been a bit more of a film critic, I think. Apparently, he wrote some
Okay.
very well-regarded film about book about surrealism in film or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So Buñuel and his often collaborator Jean-Claude Carrière, right? They wrote the script. They tried to get it off the ground in the 50s and the 60s. Yeah, and then eventually this guy Ado Kiru got to make. I mean, fuck, I would have loved to have seen a Buñuel take.
Hmm.
Although, I mean, I really like this
Me
version.
too. That's why I watched it last, because I knew I liked it already because I'd seen it before. I
Oh,
saw it.
okay, okay, okay.
I saw it many, many years ago.
Before you read the book, then.
Probably yes, probably just because it had Franco Nero in it. Um, and so yeah, so I knew I was going to like it, so I was like, I saved it just in case I didn't like the other ones, or but it'll be interesting to well, we'll get to them when we get to them. But yeah, I agree. This is, but maybe not my favorite. Strangely enough, I
Okay, well,
assumed it was going to be, but it might not be.
okay. So I'm going to
Um,
talk about the things that I might not like about it first.
sure.
So
Okay.
oddly, even though I'm a big Franco Nero fan, and it's
Mhm.
always fun as well because this was either shot in English or Franco Nero dubbed his own English, like he usually did.
Yeah, yes, he did. Yeah.
But what was particularly noticeable about, I can't believe I'd never noticed this before, but Franco Nero sounds like Ren Hoik, especially when he yells, "You wretched creation!" It was almost, I was expecting him to say Stimpy afterwards. Like, I've never
No, no,
noticed this
yeah,
before, but
you're right,
there's
because
a lot
when he
of
gets
Franco Nero when he gets
he
angry.
has he has this hysterical,
Yeah,
yeah, like
which is
octave
quite
tone.
often with Franco Nero, to be fair.
Yes,
I'm surprised
yes,
he's still alive. His blood pressure. I'm surprised he didn't go the way of Maurizio Merli, right? Like,
just,
yeah.
yeah,
But
huh?
so I will say, even though I like Franco Hoyt
Hmm.
a great deal, he's
Hmm.
perfectly fine in this. And the way that this film actually plays out is it actually works. But I don't know what it is about Franco Nero, but there's something about Franco Nero which I can't quite buy as the evil monk.
Really, I almost felt the
Yeah.
other way. I
Oh,
found him less
really?
convincing. I found him less convincing as the pious one,
Oh, really?
and I
Okay.
because he
No,
because he just
I bought the
he
pious. I just
already because
couldn't
he
see.
already looks kind of like disheveled and like dissipated with his like big black circles under his eyes, and
He's a bit of a junky monk, isn't he?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but yeah, okay. But either way, he's always going to bring his A game, whether it works or not.
It
And
could just be
and
that he's just sometimes the problem with Franco Nero with a lot of stars of that caliber. I think he just gets in his own way occasionally because fuck, it's Franco Nero. Like,
yeah,
you almost, that's, and not to denigrate him as an actor because he's a great actor, but he's so Franco Nero. Like,
hmm,
he can't disappear into a role necessarily
yes,
because
yes,
he is Franco fucking Nero, right?
yes, yeah,
And I suspect this is a role that requires someone who can kind of disappear under the role a bit more, right?
be a bit more self-effacing. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
and yeah, he's not. That's not
because he's Franco
Franco's
Nero.
thing.
Um,
Um,
but but he is fun to watch. He is
Yes.
fun to watch. So yeah, and of course, yeah, the other thing is to lead it on is just no, dude, that's not Brother John. What are you blind?
So, I mean, we should probably talk about Matilda, and you know, the names change depending on the adaptation, but basically, the Matilda character, right? She, in the book, apparently, it's been a long time since I've read it, but it's never fully spelled out, or it seems like maybe Matthew Lewis changed his mind partway through and then didn't edit the book. But at the beginning, it seems like she is just a person. Like she's this young woman who's apparently fallen in love with the monk, gone into this monastery under the assumed, you know, a Brother John.
Because we should mention the monk is almost like a superstar monk, isn't it? Like his sermons are like, yeah.
He's the rock star of the and you know that's the thing that Franco has going for him. He can do the Italian really well. The Latin part of whenever he's do that, like, is more convincing, say, than maybe when we get to Paul McGann. But
that great Latinate actor.
Paul McGann. But what the hell was I going to say? Oh yeah. So anyway, so she's gone into this, you know. But by the end of the movie, she seems to have morphed into, like, no, she is just some sort of succubus, you know, like sent by Satan in order to.
Oh, I wouldn't even say by the end. I mean, pretty front and center from the beginning here, right? Like
in the film versions, maybe.
Also,
but in the
book,
apparently in the book, it's not as clear.
Oh yeah, maybe I can't remember. Yeah, but here, I mean, almost.
Oh yeah,
right.
Definitely. Yes, she's definitely sent to tempt him.
And Satan turns up with a glowing jumper, and like all that stuff is really.
Yeah, is Peter Nichols' character in that in any version? Because he's a
Nicole Williamson.
Oh, sorry, Nicole Williamson. Yeah. Who's Merlin? Who's Merlin from? If you don't know who he is.
Yeah.
Merlin from Excalibur shows up as an absolute scumbag.
Also, we're looking at, he's one of those guys actually as well who you've seen in lots of things, but you might not recognize the name. But he was like considered like second to none as just fine, amazing.
Yeah, a bunch of directors said he was the next Marlon Brando and stuff.
But also fantastically arrogant. Look up some of his IMDb quotes. They're just fantastic, like really bitchy trashings of other actors. I don't know if there's a Nicole Williamson biography, but I would very nectars or something like that. Like I can imagine his pen dripping with venom. But no, he's great. But no, I don't think that Duke character, I don't think that is in the book, is it?
No, I don't remember, because like he's outrageous. He's basically a pedophile cannibal.
Well, yeah, that scene. I mean, that scene is it's never spelled out, but yeah, as far as I can tell,
that's pretty much what it seems to be intimating.
Into stew, and force the little girl's mother to eat it.
Yeah, it's outrageous.
And she seems to know what it is as well.
Yes, because she's freaking right out.
Yeah, that's a pretty amazing.
And there's also a scene where he buries a chicken, and he's a baron or something like that. He's obviously an old. He feels like he's plucked out of like a Pasolini, like Marquis de Sade film and plopped into this. But yes, there's a scene where he has the little girl like Dolph swing a chicken's head off, like that he's buried up to its neck. It's just, what is happening?
Yeah, no, he's a really great addition to this. And again, it's one of the things I like about this version.
It plays fast and loose to some degree with the book.
But it makes it a better experience as a film, I think. So the other thing as well is the ending. The ending of the book as a very memorable ending, which none of the films
adapt properly or clearly.
The last one kind of gets a bit close to it, but not really.
Not quite.
However, I think this is the one that deals with it the best, because
I agree.
Buñuel's totally thrown it out, and he's just done this totally outrageous,
the monk triumphant,
heretical, anti-Vatican, plus totally anachronistic. It reminded me of the end of Simone of the Desert, right?
Yes.
Which is another Buñuel I love that film. So I don't. There's a lot of. I feel as if there's a lot of Buñuel in this, even though he didn't actually get to direct it, right? So yeah. So for me, I mean, this just it's a good example of someone taking the source material, tonally, I think, really getting
the spirit of it
but
completely.
not afraid to do their own spin, introducing new characters.
Tinker with the details. And
Great ending. And that's when Franco Nero comes into his own as well, because that little benevolent smile he does is just now I see. Yeah, fantastic.
Yes, and I mean I really liked the ending. I think because it's so much more cynical, and it doesn't redeem him, and that's my actually biggest issue with the other two films is they give this weird redemptive thing that's not in the book at all.
Well, certainly. Well, shall we go on to 90 then?
Sure. This is my least favorite of the three by a long stretch. In fact, I was excited, so I watched this one first because I was like, well, shit, I like Paul McGann. You know, he's the what is he?
Your favorite Doctor Who, isn't he?
The Ninth Doctor, yeah. But you know, I certainly liked him. Although I couldn't help but thinking when I was watching, I was like, oh, like wouldn't Richard E. Grant have made a much better?
Right.
Like, why? Yeah, shouldn't we have gone with Nail rather than
Ambrosio and I?
Exactly. But you know, he is a good actor. But like, there's so much wrong with that film. Starting with the soundtrack, which sounds like cues taken from a poor Simon Boswell. You know Simon Boswell, the guy who would, like, if you couldn't afford Goblin, you were like, well, I guess we could probably scrounge up the pennies to get Simon Boswell. And it sounds like even like that's the one choice that I say the last film makes that really makes sense to me is they went with Gregorian, like actual monk music entire film, and I was like, yeah, that's a good choice.
Well, I didn't know the whole film. It's also got a very bombastic soundtrack as well, like an epic soundtrack, right? The last one has, I think. But
this was very, very synthy, very that 90s shit, drowning in synth, which
Did you notice as well? Because again, so to tie this into Film Craic, this is the one that's the most difficult to find.
Yes, not surprising because it's kind of shit.
Is it just me as well? The version we watched, the opening credits,
Penthouse Films. I wondered, yes,
because this was also released as Seduction of a Priest. Now this must be the most. I mean, this must be one of the most disappointing examples I would imagine of someone stumbling home from the pub.
Right.
Like, Penthouse Seduction of a Priest. Maybe they have a bit of a thing for those nunsploitation films. So they think, here we go.
Thank you for bringing that up, actually, because I was going to say what pissed me off about this was the worst thing you want to do in a film like this is have a Portuguese nun sending letters, because all I'm thinking is, why am I not watching Love Letters of a Portuguese Nun?
Yes, agree. I mean, yes, Paul McGann was a little bit more, oddly enough, he was a little bit more convincing.
As the pious priest.
Well, actually, I thought his switch was quite good, oddly enough. Like,
right, it was
happened without me noticing. Like, I can kind of, I can buy that he's now, suddenly, and this is also closer to the source material because it has like it
has the whole pregnant nun
and the pregnant
nun, which is a big subplot. Yeah,
and it doesn't have that. So it's more literate in a way. Oddly enough, until the ending, which is just what the fuck now?
What's the like Bowdlerized? Like it's a totally sanitized version.
I couldn't quite believe that's what they did with it. It's like, because it seems almost like a total misreading of the original text. Like
When did Last Temptation of Christ come out?
Like 2 years before this, I think.
Yeah. So I wondered because like the whole point of the Last Temptation of Christ is that he is offered while on the cross by Satan this option of like opting out, and then we see that play out, and then at the end of the movie he's like, nope, I'm gonna stay on the cross, which I never understood what the whole controversy was about, because that's the end of the movie is Jesus going like, no, I'm good, I'll stay up here, I'll die for everybody's sins.
Right.
But this is basically the ending of this. Like he's given the opportunity, as he is in the book, to sign a contract with Satan and escape and get away from his. We know that in the book, which none of these versions really show, that doesn't play out terribly well for the monk.
Yeah.
But in any case, yeah, but in this version, he's like, no, I will not sell my soul to Satan. I may have done some bad things, but I'm not that kind of guy.
I was so disappointed because after sitting through the rest of it, I thought at least they'll because it was so literate. I thought, well, at least they might have a shot.
That crazy ending.
Ending, yeah.
Yeah, the one with we needed a rod puppet actually in that ending. I think that would have really elevated it. If we had rod puppet Satan and Thor.
Right. What's that, club?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the version of the monk we need to make.
Challenge. Yeah. If you're listening, John Mickle, it's not too late. You can be the monk, I think.
Oh, I would see that.
That would be good.
Yeah. So
disappointing.
Yeah.
So 2011, Dominic Moll brings us the monk once again. This time starring Vincent Cassel. Who probably, as much as I like Franco Nero and I like that version, probably does the best job as this character, right?
Yes.
Both are convincing. Because Vincent Cassel is good like that. Vincent Cassel, oddly enough, can be the romantic lead, and he's a fucking football hooligan as well, right? Like he's quite good like that.
No, I actually think his performance is brilliant, and this is the one that surprised me the most, because I would have had it in my head that this is the one I'm going to like the least because it's the most recent, and I was completely wrong. As I said, it vies very closely
racist against time.
I am, but it vies very closely with the Nero version, as I put it right neck and neck.
Oh no, not for me. No, I actually found this not as hard going as the 1990 version, but it's but I did find it quite slow and boring, and not ultimately as disappointing as 1990, but I don't know. It's just, and again, they didn't do the ending.
No, but they do bring up a really key thing that I the more I thought about it, I was like, it's kind of weird that they don't bring it up in the other two versions, because one of his many crimes is, right, and we haven't really talked about this, but obviously, that part's actually great in the book, and also in at least one of the movies kind of deals with it really clearly. When I think it's actually the Paul McGann version. So initially he gets involved with this young novice who turns out to be a woman in disguise as a monk. They bang a few times, and then he's like, looking for greener pastures. He's like, and he fixates on this like teenage daughter of this woman who's been visiting because she's sick, and then things escalate badly. He ends up basically, and in the book, in some ways, it's actually, the book is probably the grisliest version of it all. All the movies kind of slightly make it less rough, but he does, he assaults her sexually and then abducts her and then murders her.
Well, oddly enough, in this version, I noticed what they did here, because like I said, they all put the emphasis somewhere slightly different. They kind of sideline the Mathilde character, or at least once she's unmasked, Deborah Francois. Like, because it's such a strong image, the wooden mask it's almost like a no kind of thing. That's really great. But then almost as soon as she's unmasked, they almost totally forget about her character.
Just too bad, because she is cute. She's one of the cutest of the Matildas, I think.
Other thing this film does get right, though, that is a big, scary-looking fucking centipede.
Yes, yes, that
That's a
thing's
nasty piece
terrifying.
of work. That
Yes, yes.
I'm not going in that garden ever again.
No, no, for sure. And I quite like the use of the gargoyles, which are very like dick-like looking as well. These like
Oh yeah,
thrusting cock gargoyles everywhere. I thought was an effective, yeah, visual. Um, but but yeah, in this anyway, yes. Yeah, so that like, but then this is the only version that also on top of all of that we discover, oh yeah, and she's also your sister, and her mom who you murdered is your mom, right? This is the only version which is in the book, right? But this is the only version that has that stuff dramatized.
right.
So yeah, I'm trying to remember. So this one does end a little closer to the book.
A
We just don't
little.
get the quite dramatic
No, and it
sweeping.
alludes to it throughout with the eagles or vultures or whatever overhead, right?
Mhm.
But then again, it's also to be honest, the ending of this one confused me a little bit, right?
Mhm.
Because he does renounce God and the Holy Trinity,
Mhm.
which is actually quite shocking. Actually, the
Mhm.
way it's played out when he says it, it is actually quite shocking. But obviously he's left for dead with his carrion. Right?
Birds. Yes.
It's an
Yeah.
odd. It's an odd the way it, but like, uh, so I understand what they're going for. There's like he's almost immediately betrayed, right?
Mhm.
But there's I don't know, like the ending of the book, for instance, it's such a dramatic kind of
I was gonna
betrayal.
say, actually, do you think that the character? So like, there's this character that's at the very beginning, who returns at the end, and it's a bit of a Robert De Niro in Angel Heart thing, right? Where they've introduced this character at the beginning who's confessing to the father,
Louis
particularly.
Cypher.
Yeah, yeah. But he's confessing to basically abusing his niece, right? And then he appears at the very end of the story. And we realize, oh, that guy is the devil, I guess, right? That seems to be
Yes,
the intonation, right?
as played by what's his name? Sergi Lopez, I think his name is.
Right.
Who looks
Which is
is good. He looks like a good devil. He looks like a. You don't know who Javen Jenkins is. He's like he's like a Shakin' Stevens of the devil. Got that kind of look. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, no, but I immediately then thought, because I watched this version and then I watched right after it, I watched the 1972 version. I
Mm.
was like, oh, is that Nickel's character, like being kind of alluded to, even though that's not actually a character in the book, but he is another rich guy who's clearly got questionable tastes, right? And then turns out
It is
he's the
nice.
devil. Yeah, well, yeah. So anyway, I was interesting. I wondered if that character was a weird nod to the 70s version.
But you seem to have got on with this version. So this version kind of gripped you throughout.
I don't know if it gripped me. But it's one of those things where I enjoyed spending time in the monastery. Like it was really nicely shot.
Oh, it looks
Like
great.
the
I
music
admit
was
that.
really
Yeah.
good, and I really I thought, as we said, I really thought that the central performance, I felt that like what's his
He's
name,
good.
the
Vincent
French
Cassel.
fella.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he was excellent.
Vincent, he's always good though, isn't he, Vincent Cassel? Not to
I
downplay.
don't think I've seen that many of his other
Oh,
films
okay.
actually.
Okay.
Um,
Um,
but he's definitely on my radar after this.
what I was going to say is you could argue that you could argue that the book is, yeah, it is the bombastic kind of over the top thriller of its day in a way. So
Mhm.
I do like the fact that they did go the road here, that they didn't go taught, although the ending is very low key. But throughout,
Mhm.
I was convinced that they were actually going to go for the original book's ending because it felt like the tone
Yeah.
was there. I thought, oh yeah, okay, they might actually go there. Plus, they've clearly got a budget, so they might have the effect
Yes,
budget to
to
pull
pull
it
it
off.
off. Yeah.
But then towards the end it doesn't. It's almost as low key as the 90 version.
Gets quite restrained. Yes.
So I was kind of surprised by that, because I'm wondering if the way to do it for all time is to like Michael Bay does the monk or something.
That shit crazy it up.
Yeah.
Just like,
yeah.
Yes.
Maybe. But then
again, and then that would have been
like,
obviously Nicolas Cage in his heyday. Then clearly would have been monk back at the Face Off Nicolas Cage,
or is Season of the Witch era, because he's doing period kind of. Is he? He might be a monk in that. Actually, is he a monk in Season of the Witch?
I think he might be.
Yeah. So it's odd. My personal favorite is the 70s one. I like it for what it is. Although I wouldn't necessarily say it's the
definitive adaptation. No, I don't, because there isn't one clearly yet.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if maybe that's the thing is, well, maybe there can't be. So you're better off doing what they did with it in the 70s and kind of appropriate it for your own needs. I mean, they have a pretty good go. Well, we'll find out in 10 years, right? When the next one
comes out.
We'll be ready this time. We can go see it in the theatre.
I also did like the scene with Monk Gary, you know, the part where he talked to Matilda and said, you know, you know why I hate you, baby.
Yes, I'm coming. See that it just makes I'm just going to listen to the
song
time now. The whole thing. Very good fall covers of Monk songs as well. We'll be getting to them as well. Again, no, not this. It's that other fucking.
Yes, the book wankers.
Yeah.
All right. I think we can probably sign off there.
I think we're done. I think that's enough monkey goodness.
Yes.
Now.
Hey, we're the monkeys.
Yes.
I think we monkey around.
Straight down to heaven. Yow!